Okay, we'll get started. Thanks everyone for coming out to City Council meeting today. And sorry for the delay. This is one way that the mayor will not leave us in charge because we've started 10 minutes late. So I apologize. Thank you all for waiting. To get started, we've asked Tyler Jacobson to give us a prayer to get us started, and then Councilman Gordon will lead us in the pledge.
Our dear kind Father in heaven, we're very grateful for the opportunity to gather as citizens of Spanish Fork City to discuss the needs of those that live here. And we ask you to please bless that as we make decisions tonight, that will help us to know what to do. We are very grateful for all of those that serve in our community, and pray that will please bless those wonderful charitable organizations and individuals that help make this such a wonderful community to live in and to visit. And we pray that will be with all of them, and we pray for all of these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Tyler.
Thanks, Tyler. Will the audience please rise? Please repeat the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Just a quick mention, the mayor and Councilman Argyle are away today, obviously. They are down at water meetings for us, so we appreciate them doing the good work of the city down there, and we'll try to not mess this up while they're gone. We'll move to public comments right now. We have a couple agenda requests. First, if it's okay, Wendy from Tabitha's Way, if we can have you go first, and then we'll have Lana and Eileen come up and give us a presentation. Is that okay? Okay, come on up.
Thank you for having me. Before I begin, I just wanted to say thank you to council members and to those who aren't here, including the mayor, to just say thank you for the work you do. I appreciate it. So God bless you for that. Just really quickly wanted to report back to our city and to our citizens our 2018 report for Tabitha's Way. So I'm just going to highlight a few. I left a sheet for each of you, but just a few quick numbers. In 2018, Tabitha's Way provided service to 51,166 individuals. For Spanish Fork, that was 12,848 individuals from Spanish Fork. In total, 25,828 children out of that 51,000 were children, of which 6,366 were children from Spanish Fork. Seniors, roughly, so 2,387, of which 777 were seniors from Spanish Fork. And total client shoppers, let me explain what that means. Those are families that come and shop, but sometimes a family comes more than once. The average is about 5, but some families just come once, some families come more often, but we count them in terms of client shoppers. So roughly represents households, but 3,298 were from Spanish Fork. In all, 578,160 meals were provided to citizens in Spanish Fork in 2018. We just wanted to say thank you to all of our stakeholders, to our city, our community leaders, for all those who've donated their time, their resources. We're truly thankful for your support, and we just want to say thank you, and God bless you. That's all.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, Wendy.
Do you have any questions?
You're awesome.
Okay.
Thank you for being in our community.
Thank you.
You're a great asset.
Great asset, great blessing. Way to go. Okay, Mrs. Creer Harris and Mrs. Quintana. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Yat شيء تخوخن شلون تخوبان هبششين بتعني دش جيدوكيا أني دشنا لأكت آسان شلون. I am from the Navajo tribe. I'm from the Nearwater clan, born for the Edgewater people, my father's people. My maternal grandparents are from the Folded Arms clan. My paternal grandparents are from the Towering House clan. This is the proper way of introduction in my tribe. So I wanted to start it the right way and everything. I also, as work, I work for Nebo School District's Indian Education Program. I've been able to work with the program for 20 years now and have had an incredible experience with working with our Native American students. We cover the whole district. All 42 schools are covered by our Indian Ed program. We're located at Larson Elementary. Every year from 20 years back, we've held a powwow during the month of June, usually. And this year we want to do the same thing, holding a powwow the last Saturday up at North Park to celebrate American Indian heritage, because I believe that, as all of you know, it is the history. American history begins with Indian history. Utah history begins with Indian history. So these are pictures that Richard, Lana's husband, took of our powwow many years back. And it tells about the story of many of the tribes that come in. And this summer, we're hoping to invite over 25 different tribes to come and dance and compete against each other. It's a way of teaching our students traditional dancing and songs, and a way of being able to socialize. What I want to do this year is open it up to our community. I've always kept it an American Indian event where we celebrated and we invited the community, but I want to do this a little bit more widespread. So this is what our plans are. I want to give some time to Lana, because I know we don't have very much time.
Okay, I'm Lana Creer Harris. My father was Lauren W. Creer. My grandfather was Lauren B. Creer. My mother is Janice Larson, and her father was William P. Larson. The Larson of the Larson School is my grandfather. Eileen and I have been friends for a very long time, and I've attended powwows. And the thing about powwows is those dances and that regalia are all, and they are not costumes, folks. Call it regalia. They are important, they are culturally important, and they are a prayer. They are valuable. Those guys and gals never let that regalia touch the ground. They take very good care of it for the reason that it is part of their culture and their religion. Now, there's a big society of powwow dancers. There's even a group at UVU of college powwow dancers. So this has great potential for growth. And the thing that I found with Eileen and her group is Eileen, because of her culture and religion, does not brag. It is not part of the Navajo way to brag on yourself. I'm going to do a little of it. The Native American program at Nebo School District started out with kids struggling hard to graduate, and a very, very low graduation rate, teens percentage graduation rate. Now, after how many years, Eileen?
20 years.
20 years. How many kids graduated?
This year we're going to have 33.
33 high school graduates from this program, because she makes sure they understand their culture, because these kids can be really lost and have nobody to look to. But now, look at that. That kid knows their culture. That kid is proud in their heart of who they are. That kid understands math and science because she's taught math and science as part of her summer program while they build a teepee, while they build drums, while they do things that are important to their culture and extend their education. And part of the backbone of her program are the parents. And that's where Eileen gives the kudos. The Parents Committee, back when we had a Western Days celebration here in Spanish Fork, they brought dancers. And the Parents Committee put up a Navajo taco stand. And there were a lot of people interested in having sales booths and in helping people. And those little jingle dancers, those bells around their dresses, utter a prayer. I mean, this is important, and those little gals know how to keep those bells in rhythm, how to move so those bells chime in rhythm. And those of you who are cowboy to the soul, Dale, those bells used to be made of Copenhagen lids.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Dale's got some in his pocket.
Okay, well, Seth Perrins is from the dry side of Washington, so he's got some too. But this is important, and we are invited to go. We're invited to be part of this. And it's an open invitation of love and respect. And for us to go sit in those stands and watch those dancers, watch that little woman keep her beat, and watch the dancers, the grass dancers with those long ribbons, and the fancy dancers. The fancy dancers are a hoot. And at the very beginning of every powwow, there is a large grand entry. And I was at a grand entry, and the fancy dancer was wearing a big tall guy, and he was wearing a big bustle, and in the middle of the bustle in the back was a mirror. And dancing right behind this big fancy dancer is a kid about that age. And she's doing her hair in the ribbon and mirror on his bustle. I thought that was hilarious. These kids learn this from the ground up, literally. And they learn to dance. Fancy shawl dancer, right? Yeah. And these women make their regalia and these long shawls, and they work these shawls as part of their dance. And what you're going to have to do, and I do it with Eileen all the time, but what you're going to have to do when you go is, if nobody tells you and you want to know what's going on, you may need to grab one of the parent committee and say, can you explain this to me? And somebody will be glad to, because this is the nicest group of people. And they make the best Navajo tacos I have ever eaten, and I lived in Arizona for 7 years. But this is a very important thing, and we're invited to be part of it. And it will be at North Park, end of June. And they will have food booths, and they will have concessions. They will have cultural booths. They will have this dance going every so often. Now, you see every entry is wearing a number. And somewhere off in this large circle, there is a judge. And that judge is watching them dance. And they're watching those beats, and they're making sure they hit those beats, and they're making sure they finish on that honor beat. And they keep an eye, and they keep score. And they name first, second, third place of each group. And those places earn money, a money offering, award. So if you find it in your hearts, and I hope you do, Rich and I have a sponsorship already in, but sponsorships are not expensive. Sponsorships are $150 for every group. That's not going to break the bank, but it is going to make a huge difference to somebody. And you have to understand that big difference it's going to make. Am I doing okay? Yeah. All right, so far I'm okay. I'm never sure if I've gone a little far. But this, traditional? Yeah. Okay, this is a traditional dancer. And he's got those feathers down over his face. And eventually, sometime in his dance, he will drop down into a stance, and you will know that he is a prairie chicken. And you will know that is what his dance is. He will drop down into that, and you will recognize that prairie chicken. And you will recognize when he imitates the hunter. He will tell you what is going on. But pay attention. This isn't like a movie. You can just walk in and out and get a few minutes of it. This is something you have to sit, and I just love them. I saw one of the most honest presentations of the flag in my life on Second Mesa in Hopi. On the 4th of July, they danced the flag in. The honor guard contained men in regalia and men in their uniforms. Danced the flag in, danced it to all 4 directions of the compass. And they timed it so the flag was presented, and then when they ended where they intended to be to present this flag. And that was the most touching thing I ever saw in my life. So this is if you will sit there and you will let people dance speak to you and let those drums speak to you. They call it a drum. And it's bigger around than your grandmother's wash tub. And there's 7 or 8 guys around it. And they're singing. Now, we don't understand the words unless we happen to be blessed enough. I don't. But you can follow the song, and it is a song, and it has a beginning, and it has an ending. And you can follow through there. And that dancer is listening to the song. He's adding his feelings to the song. It's a very, very good thing to attend. And it will be open to the public. Yeah. You'll be able to buy tickets to get in. It's a nice place out there in that park. There's that big pavilion for whatever they're going to use it for. Eileen and the committee are working on it now. They'll have everything solidified, and we'll be ready to go. But we want you in Spanish Fork to know that you can come here. You can join another culture. You can be part of their culture and their ceremonials and their understanding of their place in the world. You'll get your understanding of place in the world.
A way to find out more information about our program is found on Nebo School District's website under the homepage. If you go look under parents, the 3rd link down is Indian education. We are leading the nation. I don't know if many of you know this. We did start out with 37% graduation rate 20 years ago. Since then, we've changed the amount and are starting to lead the nation. We're getting invited by people all over the country to figure out how we're bringing our 4 times 100% graduation rate to our American Indian students. So what I want to do is not only through dance and arts, I want to share the hard facts of contributions of American Indians to our community here. So
Awesome.
I have a couple quick questions. So you said the end of June. Did you say the last Saturday in June? Okay.
And what they'll do is we'll have grand entry at noon.
Okay.
And that session will go for 4 hours. And all the competitions during that drum group and the dancers and everything, there will be a dinner break, and then it'll start again at 5 and go until hopefully about 9:30, and then clean up and all that. Yeah.
Sounds wonderful. Just last week we were at a Parks and Rec convention, and they specifically said a lot of cultural events that cities have are not for that culture. It's for the citizens to come and get to know that culture better. So I think this is just perfect. So thank you for coming and sharing that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great work.
And you both have really cool necklaces on.
Thank you very much.
Picked up in a little bit
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Lana.
How
Thanks,
many
Odie.
students do you have in your program in the Nebo School District? I think this might be
Right
surprising.
now, throughout the district, there's about 300 self-identified, but tribally enrolled American Indians. We have probably about 240 around that area.
In the
So,
district.
in the
That's
district.
amazing.
And they're scattered throughout all the schools, so there's no area that they're all congregated in.
She does go to the different schools and do presentations for the classes. I know when I taught fourth grade, part of the fourth grade curriculum is Indian history, U.S. history, and Eileen's done presentations for my kids, for my students, and so it's well worth seeing. Some of my students that I had participated in the powwows, and so this will be a great event.
Yeah, I think it's really important for us to know what took place on this land that we occupy now. It only makes us more powerful if we knew that knowledge.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Great presentation, great photos, and we look forward to June. Okay, is there any other members of the public that would like to come in front of City Council? Okay, if not, we'll move to council comments, and we'll start over here with Council Member Beck.
Wow, thank you. Mayor never lets me go first.
Yeah. Changing it up here. I got no beard, Mayor's not here.
And I get to go first. My first thing is just Miss Spanish Fork. Morgan Reed was crowned Miss Spanish Fork with Jill McConnell, first attendant, and Ashlyn Crockett, second attendant. This was on Saturday night. We're super excited for all three of those girls to have the opportunity to represent our city. They're amazing. There were 5 contestants. All of them had a 3.8 or higher GPA. Their talents were spot on. Just, it's a great organization. Brandon also has served on the Miss Spanish Fork board, and it really is a great organization to build young women's confidence. And behind, like backstage before the pageant that night, I walked around and asked them all, what have you learned the most these last couple of months as you've been preparing? And they just said, my confidence has increased. I feel like whatever I have to say is of value, and I can talk to others more willingly. And so it was just really neat to be part of that. So I congratulate them. And then last week, a couple of us were able to go to the Parks and Rec conference, and Spanish Fork Parks and Rec was recognized by the URPA for outstanding facility 20 years later, but we're done, right, Del? We're done. Well, we're not done being recognized. We're just done with that park. We're done with that park. The pickleball courts solidified, and so congratulations. My favorite part of that whole event is just sitting down and talking to the staff and listening to what they're doing every day in the trenches, because they're working hard and making our city awesome. I think that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Scobes.
The only things to report, Veterans Council meeting that we were due to hold this week, or last week rather, was put off until May 1st. If any of you care to go to that, but they had some schedule conflicts, and to be able to have a quorum, there were times where Legion members couldn't be there, and so there wasn't a quorum, and then when they could, the VFW couldn't be there, and so to make sure they had equal representation, May 1st is when we will have our next meeting for that. And then the animal shelter has a tentative budget that I will make sure that staff has, and that we can go through, make sure that, see if there are any questions or anything that we need to go over. That's it.
Great. Thanks, Councilmember Gordon.
Like Stacy said, the Parks and Rec conference was good. I always learn something new, and sometimes find myself in classes that I wondered how I got in there, but always walk out of there learning something. Didn't we find ourselves in one that we accidentally got into, Stacy, and then walked out with a different perspective on the liability of background checks when hiring all these coaches that we entrust our kids with, and it's a real stressful thing to think about, and so just being down there and rubbing shoulders with all of the staff that work so hard to maintain such great programs and park facilities and all of the things that Dale and his staff does. Wonderful job, Dale. Thank you. From the chamber corner, Big O had a re-grand opening, as they've had ownership change down there, and so we congratulated them and celebrated with them last week. And yesterday, Councilman Mendenhall and Council Member Beck and I attended a Leaders of Utah County meeting that was put on over at the University Mall over in Orem, and school boards and council members and our legislators from around all of Utah County getting together. And it was a good event, and it's good to see our counterparts from other communities and share the pros and cons of the things that are going well in their communities and ours. And so it was good to be at that and represent, and look forward to getting back with that group and getting to know better those council members from other communities, because we certainly don't know it all, and to learn from them and their mistakes. And one point to that is that Sandy City was there, and they talked to us about the challenges of drinking water and what they've just went through. And they took us on a play-by-play of how that went down and some of the things that they would do differently. And it was really good to hear their deputy mayor tell us, as she discussed everything that went on. It was almost like a perfect storm, as the fluoride machine, they check them every day, but that day was a day that school was canceled because they had too much snow, and so they didn't go check it. And that was even another thing that they could have, hopefully avoided. And so it's just good to hear other good and bad stories that hopefully we can learn from others' mistakes and be better. So, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone that's come. I've got another guest that came from the Rotary tonight to give us a Rotary Minute. Maybe we'll start a Rotary Minute like we have a Chamber Minute. But Dr. Tracy Franson is here to speak to us about a project that the Rotary Club has taken up, and it's a great project.
So your city rec meeting you went to was a good segue to this, because we got together with a community core of volunteers to come up with a way to involve more children in recreation activities. So Channel 17's helped us put together a public service announcement. We'll watch that first.
We love our sports in Spanish Fork, but did you know that there are many of our youth that can't participate because of a lack of funds? The Rotary Club of Spanish Fork wants to give these kids a chance to play with the Tykeson Teen Scholarship Fund.
I support the Tykeson Teen Scholarship Program because physical exercise is the most important thing for mental and physical health. Please help us.
The average fee to play on a city team is $30. We ask you to help sponsor one or more to make a big difference in a child's life.
I love playing sports because it's fun to meet new friends and compete with them.
There are a lot of kids that don't have the chance to play organized sports. I support Tykeson Teens because I feel that every kid should be part of a team.
You can donate online on Venmo or PayPal or through any local bank in Spanish Fork. Help us help these kids get involved in sports. It's a game and life changer.
Okay, that put us together with what we're doing. Here's a handout for you.
This is awesome. That's fun.
I'm going to pass those around there. The rest of the people in the group, I'll take them. So we've partnership with several people. We've partnership with the city rec department. We are going to raise funds and donate those to the city rec department. We partnered with Nebo School District. The principals are going to identify, so we have 9 elementary schools within our city boundaries. We have 2 junior highs and 2 high schools. So the principals are going to be on the lookout for children who could use a group team activity that wouldn't necessarily do that based on funds or family situation, and turn those in. And based on the amount of money that we raise in our pilot project here, we hope to be able to fund 200 scholarships for the rec department. Doing that, we will then send a letter back through the principal. The principal will invite the student to come, and they'll bring that letter to the city office and be able to use that as a way to play. So this is the first time we've done social media fundraising. So if you'll notice there, you can do Venmo, you can do PayPal, or if you want to visit Councilman Mendenhall at his bank or any of the other banks, you can stop in and we have donation accounts. We're running this up through the end of April. at which time we hope to have enough to fund those 200 scholarships. So we invite everybody to join with us and sponsor 1, 2, 3, 10, as many students as you would like to be able to participate and get their physical activity. Questions about what we're doing?
I have a question. Is this, do you have a PDF so we can share it on our social media?
Yes, I can put that into a PDF, and this
Get
you're
it to
seeing right here is
Scott, or-
on the city YouTube site. So you
Okay.
can go on
We
and
can
take
get
that
that
link
video.
and share that on your social media.
Okay.
In fact, I should put up the link there, but it's on the YouTube. So we'll do that.
Okay.
And yes, I can get the PDF down to Pete. He's on our committee, and he can get it to where it needs to go.
This will be in the newsletter as well.
Oh, it will be?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was last month.
Oh, was it last month?
Yeah.
It was last month, and then we've got something, and hopefully it's going to be in again this month. So.
People usually put the Rotary and scholarships together in the golf tournament that's coming up, and
Right.
tell people a little bit of the success you've had years over years doing that. And
Yes. So this is our, I've forgotten how many years, 22nd or 3rd year of doing our scholarship golf tournament. Last year we had 22 $1,500 scholarships that we did for our high schools here. When we first started it, we set up an endowment fund so that half of what we raised went to scholarships, half went to the endowment fund. And our goal is to keep $100,000 in the endowment fund, so if Rotary ever isn't able to do the tournament, that can be an ongoing scholarship fund. Last year, I think we had 25 applicants. We had enough money to do 22. We're hoping to fund all scholarships that come in. That will be on May the 8th, I think, whatever that Wednesday is, the 7th or the 8th, is the scholarship golf tournament. And we appreciate our local business community. They tend to be the ones who sponsor those teams for the scholarship, where this is a citizen-driven initiative of everybody, regardless of what you do, that can participate and help the kids. So,
awesome.
Other questions?
No, it's fantastic.
Okay, so pull out your phones, do Venmo. That'll be great. Okay,
thanks,
you.
Dr. Franson.
Okay.
Again, I can't say enough about Dr. Franson, president of the Rotary Club, and our local Rotary Club. When they put their mind to something, they do it, and just great people to volunteer time, money, and talents for what they do. So, if they put with the history they have of scholarships, this is going to be successful too, and dovetails great into the active and healthy minute, if you will, that a doctor here in our town lets us know that
You heard my phone go off?
Yes, what was that?
Donation.
No way.
Yeah.
That's
People are watching.
It's already starting.
That is thrilling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a donation.
Nice.
They probably didn't hear that in the.
You're lucky, Mayor Lacy.
Oh,
here.
yeah, there was
That
some.
donation turned into
Yeah. Oh,
dollars.
yeah. Say it right here. Yes. Yeah. Sorry.
Is that from Mayor Leifson by chance? Can you
It better be. Mayor, you better make that phone beep again.
Disclose that.
Okay, don't
So you heard my phone go off. It was a donation coming in on Venmo, actually, as we talk. So
Cool.
Nice.
That's awesome.
good.
Very cool.
Thanks.
Next up will be Jerry Lewis.
Yeah. You get the chance to talk to Brandon Gordon and Keir Scobes if you call in now. Well, great job. That'll be successful, and it's great when a doctor that's seen decades of this stuff says that they can see the mental and physical health of kids and people can be helped with being involved in something like that. So, Principal Goal was up there, and he is right now drafting for the Pinto League Twins because the real coach isn't there, and he's the assistant. So he better do a good job up there. Let's see. I was also going to mention Tyler Jacobson and I had the chance to go to the National League of Cities Conference last week in Washington, D.C., meet a lot of good folks from all over the country, from cities and towns, but also hang out with the contingent of the Utah League of Cities and Towns. Tyler could tell you more about it if he wants to, but the neat thing for me was meeting our federal delegation, but also learning that our League of Cities and Towns in the state of Utah carries some level of prominence and is doing some good things with the way we maybe stay off preemption of local government, and other state league organizations are taking cues from us of how to do that better. So pretty neat thing to see that we're represented well out there. Tomorrow speaks a little bit to the Rotary Club as well. Being part of a poverty now, a no poverty panel, which I think they've talked to Tabitha's Way before, right? This is a poverty organization that is organized to help families maybe transition out of poverty to a better situation, and so I'm excited to report back from that panel tomorrow. And I'm sure they just think from Spanish Fork, invite this guy because he might know Wendy from Tabitha's Way, because she's known throughout that community. So thank you, Wendy. And that's all I have. So if there's nothing else, we'll move on to item number 6, consent items.
Motion to approve the consent items.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Scobes to approve the consent items. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that moves us to number 7, our public hearing for tonight. Ordinance number 05-19, abandoning utility easements. Who are we hearing from in the... Somebody teeing off the public hearing here before we open it up to the public?
You might be hearing from me.
Dave Anderson just walked in if he wants to take it. He doesn't want to take it.
It's a abandoning utility easement, so pretty sure he...
Probably shouldn't take it.
Okay.
I'd be happy to take it, but I probably shouldn't.
What'd you do?
So there is utility easement that runs adjacent to, or maybe even under, the old road that led to the old landfill sites, as well as to the greenway sites that people might remember kind of behind the old Kmart location. As we have closed that road, it's now been closed for probably 3 or 4 years now, and have rerouted roads on Marketplace Drive and onto Canyon Creek Parkway and Spanish Fork Parkway. Those utility easements have remained, although they're not used. We're also rerouting a power line around there. All of this comes along this road here, and the utility easement will wrap around this space. The area that I'm outlining for you is that of a large home improvement store that will be under construction here in the next week. Called Lowe's. So the abandonment of the easement runs along this roadway here, and we have a new easement for that power to be routed around that. And I believe that power line is maybe completed at this moment. I haven't been out there for a week, but they started rerouting that about a week ago. So anyways, that's what this is for. It's a public hearing as we're abandoning a public easement. And any questions on that from you before I
That'll take away that line that's going diagonal across the whole site?
Yeah, well, it doesn't take it away. It reroutes it. So the line will go like that. If you could imagine these parcels with that Lowe's site here, the Lowe's building being constructed here, it comes down here, shoots around here, and goes like that.
Thank you, Seth. Okay, we'll open this up, a motion to open this up for a public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. We are now in public hearing for item ordinance 519, abandoning a utility easement. Anybody from the public to speak to that? Seeing none, motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Gordon, second by Councilman Scobes to go out of public hearing. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any questions on this?
I move we approve ordinance 05-19, abandoning utility easements.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Scobes, second by Councilmember Beck to approve number 519, abandoning utility easements. Roll call vote. Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilmember Scobes.
Aye.
Councilmember Mendenhall. Aye. Councilmember Gordon.
Aye.
That passes. Okay, we'll move on to number 8, new business, appointment of wastewater treatment facility advisory group.
Mayor's not here, and he said he'd like to do this next week.
Okay. We will strike A, move to B, General Atomics contract.
Thank you. The General Atomics is a company that is located on North Main Street, kind of west of the Armory, and they do some pretty cool things. They create parts for planes and missiles. Some of their parts end up in certain missiles that are used by our military. Pretty cool stuff that they're doing. They're growing at a very, very fast rate, and they're expanding the facility that they have. In fact, you might recall this winter they've been using some of our parking lots to help them park some of their employees, and that's actually not really been needed. I don't think they've parked many, if any, employees there, but it's been good for them to at least have that option. With their expansion, they have a number of electrical costs that are to be borne. The net effect of these costs to them is $99,500. That's some impact fee money, mostly due to the growth that they are having. Some labor, some building permit fees and things like that. $65,000 of that, almost $100,000 though, is their impact fee. As a part of their massive expansion, they've simply asked for us to, if there is a way we could work with them to pay for that impact fee over time. We don't often get the opportunity to assist existing companies with some of their growth and expansion opportunities, and provide, if you will, an incentive. And a lot of times we hear from businesses, what are you doing for us? You always help these new businesses, which we don't always, and actually it's pretty rare, those businesses that we do help. But this is one of those opportunities where they've asked, is there a way that we can pay for this over time? Not decrease it. We don't want to pay it, or, can you waive it or anything like that. They just simply asked, is there a way we can pay for this over time? And as we've talked through it with staff and some conversations with the mayor and with them, they've asked for the ability to pay that $100,000 over the next 10 or 12 months. Just spreading it out. They'll pay the whole amount, but pay it over time. We felt like that was a great way that we could assist them with some cash flow, which I think they'll probably be just fine, but if it assists them to grow a little bit faster, and in some of the recitals of the contract, they're talking about adding 247 employees over the next year. 67% growth in volume in 2018. That's fantastic growth. As we've talked with some of their corporate people, they are very excited about Spanish Fork, proximity to the airport, and some of the things that are here versus where they are. As you can imagine, they're in the state of California. It's pretty nice to deal with Utah versus California. So the contract is not yet completed. The gist of it, and I can't remember if it was attached in the agenda or not.
It's not.
So the basic tenets of the contract is that they'll pay $100,000, $10,000 a month over the next 12 months. We'll send them a bill. They had talked about, and the reason you don't have the contract on your agenda, Junior in his suggestion wanted to put it on the utility bill, but that actually kind of becomes problematic. And so he's sent back a red line to them of we don't want to do it on the utility bill, we just want to do it through invoice. And we're just waiting to get that back. But assuming we get that back, we want to get your thoughts and your direction on that contract. Really, those are the gist. That's the gist of the terms. $100,000 over 10 months, not 12. Over 10 months, and the collateral for it, if they don't, the collateral that they have offered is that we would be able to shut their power off, which is kind of, it's kind of
kind of important to them.
A nuclear card, if you will. So they've said we're going to pay the bill, but that we'll offer that as collateral. You can shut the power off. So that should be all the incentive they need to make sure that they pay it. Any questions on that? I can hand this up to you if you have any questions on it.
How many jobs was Young Living providing in their contract?
Fantastic question.
reference.
Dave, do you have a
Just a rough, wasn't it 150?
I was thinking 200.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you just used the figure of 247.
That's what is in there.
Cool.
Yep.
These are, I mean, this is a company that makes everything from nuclear fusion things to defense contracts to.
Yeah, a lot of machining and carbon fiber filaments. And what's really cool about this, and it's been a few years since I've been there, but they take items that were made in this way, and it's really, really heavy, and they make it a different way with carbon fiber filament, and it ends up weighing, a fraction of the cost, or a fraction of the weight. And you might recall they had an airplane they were testing several years ago, and it was an amazing plane to watch take off. It was so light because of how they made it, that on the runway it only took a couple hundred feet to take off. And hopefully that technology continues to improve, and they continue that project, because that was really cool. That was really cool.
I talked to one of their employees. They have a rule that if you're late for work, you have to bring donuts. And so they said it's so funny because you'll get there, you're 60 seconds late, boss points you out the door, and it takes you 20 minutes to go down to the donut shop, get donuts, and come back. And so, but yeah, it only happens once, I guess, yeah. And so.
I wondered if we were going to make
Clever.
Dr. Franson buy some donuts when his phone started ringing. I mean, Mayor Leifson would have done that.
It's true. It's true. We don't want to cut into the
scholarship.
No, we're not cutting into that.
So what we're looking for is maybe the ability to approve this contract subject to this last detail, being approved by them, that we'll just pay by invoice rather than on the utility bill.
Okay. Thank you, Seth. With that caveat, does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the General Atomics contract with the invoicing caveat.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Beck, second by Councilmember Scobes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Seth. Item C, proposed preliminary plat approval request for master plan development at approximately 920 South River Ridge Lane for River Cove. Dave Anderson.
Thank you very much, Councilman. The proposal is to simply reapprove the preliminary plat for this master plan development. This is the longest or oldest active project that we have in the city. It's been around for quite a while, pushing 15, maybe even 16 years now. And the applicants are looking to finish it up here within the next couple of years. It's been a while since a plat was recorded in the development, so the preliminary plat approval has expired. We're here tonight just simply to request that the preliminary plat be reapproved. You can see the area there that is undeveloped right in the middle. Guess what? That's what's left. This area right here, I believe there are 46 lots left to be constructed. There are a couple of changes the applicant has had to make relative to bringing the plat into conformity with our current standards. They've involved redesigning some intersections and some other utility types of things. I also want to touch briefly on a couple of lots that they have in the project. There is a power line, an existing power line that follows the easement that's identified with this line work here on the image that we're looking at. As you can see, that power line runs right through these two lots. So that's something of a red flag for us as staff. It came up in our Development Review Committee meeting. The applicant has identified on the plat with this image that we're looking at here how you could fit a home on the lot within the setbacks. These dashed lines here are there to identify where the building envelope is on the lot, which is where you could physically site a home outside of this easement, for example, on this lot here, and within the required setbacks. The applicant's done the same thing here to show where a home could be located outside of the easement on the lot and outside of the setbacks. These building envelopes, they're not small. They're fairly sizable. This power line is not a huge line. I don't know exactly what it is in terms of kilovolts and that sort of a thing. I believe it's got 3 wires on a wooden pole.
I think it's a 46 kV.
So not ginormous like some that we have around, but still it's significant, and it's something that we're very particular about not wanting to interrupt in any way, disturb. We don't want to infringe upon that easement. We've made that clear to the applicant. They understand it, and I'm bringing it up tonight just to add emphasis to the fact that it is a concern for staff, that we want to make sure that care is taken as these property owners are advised as they purchase the lots of exactly what they can or can't do within that setback, or sorry, within that actual easement area where there can be no construction. And you can see, I think from this image as well, that how somebody would site a home on those lots is going to be a little bit unique. So perhaps it will take a particular type of a buyer to be willing to do that. The last thing I want to touch on is the floodplain. This project was impacted by some flooding that happened, I believe, in 2011. And there are some things that have changed since then that we think have dramatically lessened the impact that any phases that were constructed after 2011, including anything we're talking about tonight, is lessened the likelihood that there would be any threat to property should any kind of flooding occur. With acts of God, of course, they're just simply levels of safety that we're talking about. And I'll let, if he's not our current floodplain manager, he was our previous floodplain manager. Right? Okay.
I'm still the current.
So you got the real thing here with us. We're talking about the 500-year floodplain, right? That does include area on these lots here. I don't know if you want to add anything, but typically that's not an area that we have any building restrictions in that I'm aware of.
Well, we wouldn't allow a basement. The lowest base or foundation or the base flood elevation is determined. So your lowest floor elevation has to be above that base flood, so basements wouldn't be allowed. So you see some of the existing homes that are built up along the river, they're about 5 feet in the air. That's what they'd have to do in that floodplain. So they have to build them up so their lowest floor elevation's above the base flood.
And does this
the 100-year floodplain, you have to be 2 feet above. So in this floodplain, you just have to be above. And we have done some bank stabilization along the river. In the previous preliminary plat, it was required. I don't know if this pointer's working, but.
Is that not working?
So just along here, if you go back to the first, or the aerial, you can see where they've actually done it. So we did analyze the river with the first preliminary plat, was the one, the previous preliminary plat. And they've already done all the work.
And we still have easement at the back of those.
We require a
lots.
dedication of 40 feet. It's not
Right.
an easement, but it's a dedication.
Okay, yeah. I remember a number of years back we changed that to be able to get in for riprap and any repairs. And
We've got an access here, and then there's an access here along in the Quail Hollow.
Okay.
So it'll be a trail that ties into the bridge here. So.
How many lots are affected? Does this map show how many lots are affected by the floodplain
I think
that you're
he has
talking about?
one.
If we have it, the image that's on the front page of the staff report
about 10.
shows it fairly well. It's really just,
Yeah,
it's these lots right here. Yeah, that shows it better. So again, this is the remaining part right here that hasn't been constructed yet, so that's what we're talking about right there.
right, and these houses here are the ones that, these were built before the floodplain was adopted, so they're lower. If you go to these 3 houses here, they're up in the air. They meet the new code. So, same with the houses in the cul-de-sac. And so it's just the base flood elevate, or the basement, or the base floor has to be above the base flood. So.
Okay.
Just real quick, while I'm looking at those 2 lots again with the easement. It's not a big power line, but the houses right there, if there's an issue, if we need to replace the pole or lightning strike, it hits the pole, is it landing on houses? I mean, you can fit them on those lots, but is it so close that the city has a liability if there's any issue with a truck, a pole falling? I mean, Murphy's Law says that if something can happen, it will. Not that I'm trying to say no, they can't build there, but the city's the one that will bear the brunt of whatever act of God or anything that takes place. So.
20 foot easement. Yeah, actually, I think it's a little bit wider. I was just trying to read it.
I think there's potential for what you're talking about to happen, I think. We haven't experienced that in this city. This is not a Spanish Fork City power line. That's another thing that kind of a little heightened sense of awareness and concern today.
Well, at some point it may be.
No, it's the distribution line for SCSD, so
yeah.
It's typical for the lines that run through town.
Okay.
It's not a very,
than this would be to structures that would be built within that envelope that we looked at a minute ago.
Okay. So it's
not
not,
to say it couldn't happen.
right, but it's not outside the scope of
Possibility.
normal practices as far as the setback and things.
Yeah, in fact, we have poles certainly at many locations in the city that are closer to homes than these would be here. You can see maybe some of the locations of poles in the actual line
right
on this image here, just barely seeable.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jared.
So again, just really changes to some of the utility plans and the street designs, and the Planning Commission and Development Review Committee have both recommended that the project be approved, just with one condition perhaps, that the applicant address any remaining red lines that have been provided by city staff.
Is the applicant here? Is it anything the applicant?
Sorry, I was...
Mike just wants to hear your accent.
Yeah,
go.
good evening.
Yeah, I hear it. I get to talk to him on the phone before.
In terms of the risk of the power lines, you can't say that it's not a risk, but what I can say is that it's not any additional risk that doesn't already exist in terms of existing homes along this corridor here. So if you go back to the other plan, that power line comes right through here and was originally designed to accommodate predominantly the road. And so it cuts right along what I think it's the south side of this particular road, and is, to some degree as close to the houses as it would be on those lots, other than there's no road underneath it. Yeah. So we recognize it's a little awkward. It was the way to sort of maximize the land, and it is a strawberry power line. And we've communicated with them over the years about the design and those kinds of things. We recognize, in addition, that those two lots aren't typical. They're more than likely going to be spec homes where our group designs the home specific for the lot to maximize the appeal, curb appeal, and for the community. Lot 30 is a very large lot, and we're feeling a lot more comfortable with the building envelope in that lot. The examples that we provided were mere examples from our file. The group had kind of pulled a couple of homes and see how they would fit. They're not by any means maximized for the lot or the building envelope either. So the group, while they are awkward and not prototypical, are very comfortable in being able to develop something there that still appeals to the community and isn't out of sorts with everything else that would be built there.
Right.
Yeah.
Is this subdivision going to be bring your own builder, or who's the builder in this area? I'm sure people watching will know that.
The home builder is WPI Residential Homes, and so we're also doing the commercial Canyon Creek project there, so you can see our signs and our phone numbers around, and there's affiliate, sister company within our group that builds homes.
Mm-hmm. For the millions watching, tell us who you are, Mr. Schmidt.
Yeah, my name's Daniel Schmidt, and I work with WPI, and we develop a lot of commercial property and residential land also. Anything else?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. Okay, any other questions for staff or the applicant on this?
I think it's worth noting, and we're absolutely committed that the power lines will be built, or the power lines are in places where they won't be over homes. There's a safety radius of about 15 feet, and they'll be well outside of those. And this is a great, as subdivisions are built, having the power lines in the planter strips and in the rights of way is exactly where they should belong, this type of power line. A lot of our town has power lines in the backyard if we have overhead power lines. And I think as a world, we went through that phase. Let's not look at it, let's put it in the backyard, and that was a bad idea. It's really hard to maintain those lines. This line won't serve any homes in the area, so it's just cutting through the area, getting to where it needs to go for South Utah Valley Electric Service District. So it'll be in the right of way, and it'll be. I think we had a pretty lengthy discussion with, not lengthy, but straightforward discussion about maintaining that, at least that minimum 15-foot clearance with any structures, and with the exception of maybe some of those homes where it's in the sides, it'll be in the front yard and have plenty of space.
I think the city is at large, the citizens will love to see this piece finish and develop between these two pretty subdivisions of homes. So. Okay, if there's no other discussion, I would entertain a motion for reapproval with the one with the red line condition.
I move that we reapprove the preliminary plat approval for master plan development at approximately 920 South River Ridge Lane for the River Cove development, subject to the red line approvals that were discussed.
Second.
Motion by Council Member Scobes, second by Council Member Gordon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Does that need to be roll call? Anybody, or is it's okay? All right. Okay, that passes. Thank you. We'll move to number 9 on the agenda, and item A under 9, Utility Assistance Donation Program. And yes, it's been a while since you've been to our meeting. Welcome.
It has been a while. This is my first time ever presenting anything, so you'll have to bear with me.
Don't mess it up.
Good advice. Sounds about like what the mayor would say.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. That is. So I don't know if any of you knew that we've had a utility assistance donation program. If you look on the next slide here.
George, there's a clicker right by your right.
Oh, there is? Okay.
Use it.
There we go. All right, so this image here is the bottom portion of our utility bill. And I don't know if you knew that our utility bill, part of it is pre-printed. So there's a template that's pre-printed. The entire backside's pre-printed. So this portion here is pre-printed, and then they print the unique individual customer information on top of it. But in the bottom left corner there, you'll notice it says Donation Red Cross. Have any of you ever noticed that before? Here's. Did you know what it's for?
I didn't know what it was for, but I had seen it on there.
I didn't know what it was for either. Apparently, Red Cross was administering a utility assistance program. So residents, if they wanted to donate a little money with their utility bill, could write in an amount there and include it in their check, and we would take that money and then pass it on to the Red Cross, who would help residents in our town that were struggling to pay their utility bill. Red Cross made us aware that they're no longer administering utility assistance programs. So it's time to make a change. We weren't getting very many donations, and I think part of that was because people didn't understand that that little Red Cross thing in the bottom right corner was not a donation to the Red Cross itself, but a donation that would go to help residents struggling with their utility bill. The old system was designed for people to donate with a check. Most of our residents aren't paying that way anymore. They're paying via ACH auto pay or online with the card in some other form or fashion where it wouldn't be, they wouldn't be able to add 50 cents or $5 or $20 to the payment. The program wasn't very well advertised. People didn't know it existed, didn't know that they could possibly get help if they were in that situation where they needed help. And then we need to find another organization to administer the program. So this is a question that Seth asked me, is there a need for this program? And that is difficult to gauge. Ormond and Provo have similar programs, and I talked to the institution that's administering their program, and they only issued 7 to 8 checks a year, and those cities are 3 or 4 times our size. The economy is doing well right now, so I see a greater need in the future when the economy takes a downturn. Who else is providing assistance? We do receive checks from other sources. So we receive 2 to 4 checks a week from local churches. And then there's what we call HEAT, which is the Home Energy Assistance Target. This is a state program. So like it says, the HEAT program provides winter home heating assistance and year-round energy crisis. So they're mostly working in the winter to help. But if you are in an emergency situation other times of the year, then they can step in and help. And we do receive payments from them as well. So how would the program be funded? So one of the ideas that we've had is to create the ability for somebody to have a recurring voluntary donation added as a charge on the utility bill. So it's a portion. So you have electric, sewer, garbage, and they'll say utility assistance donation, and that amount can be whatever is discussed here. So to just be part of their bill. So that way if they're paying online or via auto pay, it will just come out with the rest of their payment. So we can add 10 cents, 20 cents, or we could do a round-up option. So if your bill comes to $212.53, it'll round it up to $213 even. That 47 cents will go into as a donation to the program. People would be able to enroll when they sign in for utilities or at SpanishFork.org at any time. And then we'd also like to make it so they could take we can take donations online at any time for any amount as well. And I think Dr. Franson referred to this, but we do live in a very generous community where I think people would be willing to help out. So who will administer the program? What I would recommend is Community Action Services and Food Banks. So they're located in Provo. They have right next to the bus stop and UTA Trax line, that sort of stuff. They're also administering Provo and Orem's programs for them. And they're really designed, that's their focus, is to help people that need, not only with a one-time payment on a utility bill, but to help them become self-sufficient, to get back on their feet so they're not back in 6 months or a year, but they can go on and sustain it themselves. They provide various forms of emergency assistance. So like it says, they also have a food bank. And one thing that one of the other cities is doing, that if somebody comes back for repeat help, they're requiring them to attend a Community Action Services financial literacy course, which might not be a bad idea. And then they would assess a small fee each time a payment is processed to cover their costs that way. But I think partnering up with another entity that's like that's designed to help people get on their feet is a good idea. So who will qualify for assistance? Would only be our residents. We'd have a contract with Community Action that would spell that out, as well as any type of income limitations that we wanted to assess. So HEAT, they do 150% of the federal poverty guidelines. So to give you a kind of idea what that means, for a family of 4, that would be $38,625 of income a year. So if anyone under that amount would be able to qualify for assistance. Also, those going through a significant life-changing event, a loss of job, a death in the family. We'd probably want to put some type of limit on the amount of assistance that they can receive a year. I think one of the other cities was doing $250 a year. One thing to be aware of is that our city, we hear this all the time, but our bills are higher, but there's a reason for that. We have a lot of services. The only service we're not providing is gas, but then we have the optional service of cable, internet, phone, and those can be pretty high as well, depending on the packages that our customers select. So our average residential utility bill is around $250 a month, which is higher than other cities, but you got to remember you're paying just one organization rather than several. So what do we do if we're collecting more than is needed? That's one concern that I would possibly have because we do live in such a generous community. One thing we could do is contribute the excess to another worthy cause or reduce the amount. Right now, we're kind of limited to what our utility billing software can do, and that we can't really pick and choose and allow the customer to choose the amount that they want to contribute. So we'd either do it at a flat 10 cents a month or $1 a month or just the roundup option, but we'd only do one option because of the constraints we have with our software. But that's what I got to say. If you have any questions or thoughts for me, any direction you'd like to provide.
I love the roundup option. My wife uses an app that she started using in November.
Right.
And I just found out how much money's in there. Wow.
Right.
She uses her debit card a lot, and it just rounds it up. I was surprised how quickly that, could add up.
Right.
So I would.
And that was the one that kind of caught our eye. It's like, wow, this is a great tool that I think a lot of people would. But I do think we might be, 7 to 8 checks a year isn't very much. So if we're getting, I don't know if you guys are aware, but we have 13,000 accounts. So if you're getting 50 cents on 13,000 accounts, if 100% participate, you're at $6,500 a month. So, you're over $70,000 a year. That's if 100% participation. But at 7 or 8 checks a month at $200, you're only looking at a need of $1,500, $2,000 a year. So I do think there maybe there's a way to say once we get to a certain level funded, 5,000, 10,000, we're going to try and just maintain that level. So then we reduce the amount that we're taking. There's some options there maybe.
And maybe, I don't know, one thought is if we have, Tabitha's Way, she mentioned there's 12,000 Spanish Fork citizens that came for food. But we're only doing 7 or 8 checks, so either there's a need there and we're just not aware of
Right.
it, or they're using that money to pay their utility bills and don't have for food. So it's a
right.
Well, and like Jordan says, 4
catch-
checks a week are coming from a church.
From church,
There's
right?
assistance
So-
that way as well. But I do think, I wasn't aware of this program, so I think we need to push that. If we do decide that we're going to keep this program, we need to market it so people are aware of this resource and we're getting the funds where they're most needed. I asked, Orem City and Community Action, why was it so low? And it's like, well, maybe they weren't doing such a good job of promoting it.
Yeah, and that was the thought I had when you.
Yeah, I was very surprised at
those
that
numbers
number.
up there. One thought, what if we collect more than is needed? Again, Tabitha's Way is one venue, in town, but that might be a way, to continue partnership. Tykes and Teens. There's a number of different things that I think, the city, either through committee or just, these would be city funds. So I think even just as the council, it would be fine just to have that discussion. And if we do it and we do collect more than is needed, it would be monies that are donated, and maybe somewhere in the donations say any monies, at a certain time or at a certain amount would go to the following, local, so their monies still stay local. They stay with the Tykes and Teens. They stay with Tabitha's Way. They stay with.
I think that language would be critical because you're dealing with something that's donated.
Yes.
As opposed to like tax dollars where you have the purview to spend that money.
Right.
If you're going to collect the money through some donation and I expect that it's used to pay for, say, a utility bill, I think something Jordan said could be very critical. If we know we have checks that are coming from the residents of Spanish Fork via their church affiliation already, then we know we've got needs in the community that are being met that way. A lot of churches will say, try to do other things before you tap into these resources because they could then be used somewhere else. I think marketing it could be much more successful than maybe some of these other cities do. Before we branch out and give that money to some other organization, again, just marketing it and making sure that it, if it can be used for the purpose that's been stated, let's do that.
I sat on the Community Action Board for the first couple of years. I was on the City Council. They're very competent. There's a lot of great people that sit on that board. Did they give you any idea what that fee would be that they would charge?
Around 7% is my understanding, and they would withhold it at the time they sent the check to us. And the nice thing is they're going to make the check out to Spanish Fork City and send it directly to us, so that there's no way anything could go amiss there.
Okay, gotcha. So if my donation was 50 cents, because I rounded up,
right,
3.5 cents would go to them, is what I'm hearing.
Yes. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because there is a, but
only on a bill that's paid, right? Not just on
the money's going to be sitting there. Otherwise,
okay.
They're not going to take their fee until they cut a check to us.
They cut a $200 check. They're going to take $14.
Yeah. So the money will be 100% sitting there until the assistance is received, and then they'll withhold their portion.
What would the state say is too much money to have in the account? They would not come down and say, you've got $200,000 in there.
It wouldn't count against that 21% or whatever that we...
Donation. And to be honest, I guess in a way, shape, or form, it wouldn't be our money. We're just kind of the
facilitators.
The pass-through to get the money where it's needed.
I think it would be critical that then we do say that if it doesn't go to helping pay utility bills, that it's going to go to Tabitha's Way or whatever is decided.
And I guess we could include that in the language that when they're signing up to donate towards it, it's going first to fully fund utility assistance, and then any excess will go to whatever other causes.
Yeah, I would be in favor of.
I like that you had up there too, SFCN is on our bill, so my concern is I wouldn't want to be paying someone's $90 cable bill, but they can't pay their heat bill, so
and I
would think someone would have to go have a little chat with them and say, we're just going to take your cable off for now. I don't know. That should be in the language as well. Right.
It does make us in the office a little sick to our stomach when we're seeing people that, they're continually on shutoffs, but they have a larger cable package, So, I mean, that could be something we write into the contract with Community Action, that in order for them to get assistance, that they got to be under a certain amount of...
Basic is fine. I mean,
yeah.
That's just
that's something.
opinion.
That's kind of what I'd say. So we could write that into the contract. Yeah.
Great, Jordan.
All right. Thanks.
Good work. I mentioned a little bit in my council comments of that No Poverty Summit. I didn't realize that it is the Community Action Services that's putting that on tomorrow. So a little plug if anybody wants to make it around. It goes from 9:30 until 3 p.m. tomorrow over at the Provo Library, but the panel discussion's from noon to 1:15. But I'll just read a little bit of the email. It says, the purpose is to help leaders in education, government, clergy, and others know what resources are available to low-income, poverty individuals and families, and how to access them, as well as the barriers seen. We hope to inform and begin conversations on how we can all do more to be part of the solution. So that goes really well with what your discussion is with this, Jordan. So thank you for that, and look forward to more in the future on it. Okay, any other questions for Jordan or staff on?
No, thanks for the work on that.
Good work. Item B under the number 9 item is election arrangements with Utah County. Our resident expert, Kent Clark.
I've got 2 items. One is the elections, and then one that's not on there is about our sales tax discussion. Just to educate.
I don't know, guys. Should we let him?
Mayor might have something to say about that.
I think it'd be beneficial for our businesses in our city.
Okay.
So first up is elections, okay? So this year's elections, it's a city election this year, even though we had a ballot item this last year, which is the RAP tax. This year is 3 seats are up. We know who those 3 seats are at. And the 3 dates that are important dates right now are the declaration of candidacy is June 3rd through June 7th. That's 1 week. It's Monday to Friday at 5 o'clock. And so up until 5 o'clock on that Friday, June 7th, you'll need to come in and fill out and sign in front of me as an affidavit saying that you would like to throw your hat in the ring to be in the city council. So the mayor's seat's not up. It's 3 council seats, those 3. And that's a 4-year term. So once you're on for 4 years, and then 2 years from now will be the other half of the election will be on. Okay? So the primary election will be in August 13th if more than 6 people file for the office. If 7 people file, there's a primary. If 6 people file, there's no primary. I'll just take the 6 candidates right to the November election. Okay? So next, in 2017, so I'm not talking about this last election, but the election before the last real city election, we did a new thing called vote by mail. So we can all think back of what vote by mail was last election. It wasn't a real good experience. But 2 years ago, when it was our first time in 2017, it was the first time Utah County, anybody's ever done a vote by mail in Utah County. Utah County decided, well, we're going to let all the cities be the guinea pig, so we'll let you guys do vote by mail. We'll do it for you just so they can learn from it. And so they won't have too many hiccups the next year.
Sorry, that was my inside voice.
It's a good thing we didn't wait for the first time for them, right? Can you imagine what they learned off us? And it still was pretty tough. Some key numbers right here. So this is what the proposal was they gave to us 2 years ago to say, what's it going to cost? So at that point, they said the primary was going to be $1.28 per active voter. The general is going to be $1.36. And at that time, they said they keep track of who's on the registration things. There was 15,000 active voters that were on the registration rolls for Spanish Fork City. So if we were going to have a primary last year, we'd have to pay that, and then on the general election, we'd have to pay that. In 2017, we didn't have a primary. So when the bill came, they calculated what the actual costs were. That was an estimated not to exceed type number. Whoops. And this was some of the experience we've had the last 2 years of the long lines, okay? So it was supposed to be vote by mail, meaning the ballot was sent to the people's houses. If they lost them, or for some reason you weren't part of the 15,000 voters, so you didn't get a ballot, you had to go to a voting center on election day in order to vote. Our experience this last year was there were long lines. If you sent your ballot in through the mail, you probably didn't experience this other than to watch the news and watch how frustrated everybody else was. Or if your neighbor, or if it was you were frustrated having to stand in that long line in the voting center. Okay? Here's what it kind of looked like. Here's what it looked like at the point when all that was going on voting day. This is what it looks like when all of the ballots were coming in. They had to validate them all, stack them all up, and then process them. Okay? I'm telling you this story for a reason. Then they had to go through and validate each one, send it through the scanner, and all that scanner and all that work was done over in the county department, in the county building, on the night, a couple days before, and all the way the next. It took a long time to get results to come back out. So this was the bill that they sent to us. At that time, Brian Thompson and Scott Hoganson were the election people over there. And so you can see when the actual bill came to us, this is what the bill was. And their theory on billing was done this way. It was set by a setup fee, how many registered voters there were on the first batch that went out. It cost 94 cents for the county to send, which is less than what, if we had to do it ourselves, they have a permit so they can get a lesser amount. Then the subsequent ones, as people register, then they'd send out more ballots as the new people would register as they got closer to election. So they sent out more and more, and then the ones that return back, there's a fee. There's a card notice that has to go out. And then in this election, we said that we wanted to pay for the postage, for postage return. So when they put their ballot in, then there was a fee for that. So this is how they came up with the fee for 2017.
Just real quickly, why, for additional batches, why is the postage?
Because they're in smaller batches.
Okay, so it's like the buy in bulk idea.
Right. That's the only thing that I can understand. I don't know for sure how the county gets their permit. I thought the permit was supposed to be less than 50 cents, you know, because it was supposed to be cheaper, but for some reason it's more, whether it's that ballot was bigger.
Now they had that on the primary and general as well,
right?
Which would have gone out to the 15,000 registered voters. The same why, I guess the ballot's heavier in the general election than the primary.
I don't know,
because they charged us different amounts for that too, which.
That was their theory. I'm not going to say I agree with it.
I don't know. I
didn't have
see a
much
lot of
say
fuzzy
to it.
math is kind of how
it was fuzzy math right there. It's fuzzy math. That's true. But that's water under the bridge now, because that was 17's year, and then last year it was a county election. We asked for our RAP tax to be on their ballot, and they didn't charge us anything. So we got our RAP tax on their bill at no cost, and it didn't cost our citizens anything to do that election. Okay, but guess what?
Mike Smith has something to do with this?
No.
Well, there is a new sheriff in town.
There's a new sheriff too, but there's a new sheriff in town. The new clerk auditor is Amelia Powers, and she has hired Roseanne Mitchell as her elections director. So I just want to introduce those names to you. So these are the people that are going to be running, for the most part, our elections, because we're going to probably go that way with the county elections. That's kind of prefacing that. Okay, so this is Amelia, and her attitude is she was embarrassed by the way the elections were last year, and her commitment is to make it better. And so she's got a team of Roseanne was in Salt Lake County. She was the election person up in Salt Lake County to help up there. She's taken the challenge now to come down and help and clean up Utah County and help the election process. So all I can say is, good, let's see what they can do. But we met with them as a group of all the recorders in the county. They explained what their ideas are and what they're planning to do. They're going to spend $1 million on new equipment. When we asked what you spending $1 million on, she kind of let out their theory on how they're going to do the elections. I'm assuming this is the way they're going to go, because they have to start ordering this equipment for us to use. Is that they want a new and improved election, okay? So what will be different that they've told us is there won't be any voting machines that you punch and do the ballot on the screen, which records the item, because it needs to be a ballot just like everybody else's ballot that would be sent. So you're going to get a ballot at your house. It's a paper ballot. You're going to fill it out with the dots and fill in the blanks, and you're going to send that in, mail it in. On the day of election, it's going to still be a voting center, which will be at our senior center, and you're going to go in and give you proof of that you're a registered voter. They're going to look you up by your driver's license on an iPad, and at that point, they're going to print you a ballot. Right there, a paper ballot. And then you're going to take that paper ballot over into a voting booth, fill the dots out that's going to need to be filled out, and then when you exit, you're going to put your ballot through a scanner, which will scan it right then and put that result of your vote into the internet, into the county office, and record your ballot right then. So everything that's going to be recorded is all voted that night, doesn't have to wait 3 or 4 days in order to be done. It'll be validated at the point you vote, and it'll be scanned before you leave the room. Okay? So and the $1 million that they're spending on the voting equipment is for these new scanners that's going to be in every voting center to be done, plus other ones at their place that would be able to scan on the ones that get mailed back. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, so the county has now presented to us what it's going to cost. If you remember those two prices from 2 years ago, $1.20 something, $1.30 something. So their price now for us is going to be $1.80 for the election. And I don't know, I think it has return postage on that, because that's an expensive one to send back. So they said that's the not to exceed amount. So you can see the voter count that they now tell us that we now have 17,000 that's been added to our polling or our registered voters list. And we could receive some discounts if they receive some funding from the state of Utah for this election equipment. Then they'll reduce the amounts that they're going to bill all the cities, because some of that's going to be paid by the state. And the other one is if we can get a good campaign for our city residents, if they will drop off their ballot at the city office or at the day of the voting election down at the senior center, they can just go in and drop those off there. The county's offering to put a voter mail drop in our parking lot so that they would drop them in there, and then the county will come and empty those. And I'm not sure if they're going to charge us. They're just asking us if we want one of those in our parking lot. And I said, sure. Make it convenient for our residents. They don't have to get out of the car to come all the way in to drop their ballot off, so they can just drop it in out there. So we'll see how that is going to, what the bill is for it and stuff. They just asked if we were interested in it right now. And it requires us to have an interlocal agreement with the county saying that we will let them administer the elections through a vote by mail. They'll train the poll workers. They'll do most of the election, the registered voters, the ballot preparation, the mailing of the ballot, the validation of the ballot when it comes back, and then optical scan all the ballots. What we will do is we'll be in charge of doing the noticing of the election, doing the candidates' declarations when people file for office, and then the campaign disclosure things that will be filed with us. So those will be the few things that we do. And then cross our fingers that everything goes good as the county administers the election. Part is frustrating because I've done them for forever, and it's to watch somebody else do my election. It's kind of frustrating, but okay. So this is where we shook out with the other cities. I thought this was interesting to say how much was our city compared to other cities on their registered voters. And so you can see Springville's right next to us. You can see that we've surpassed them. Payson next to us has only got 9,000. But I guess this becomes a very large bill. But it's not to exceed, but still, it's 2 years ago it was pretty close to the same what they guessed their price was.
Is that going to get us more locations and more machines?
No, one location.
Still just one location.
Last year they started out saying we'll use your fairgrounds and your senior center. I says, okay, how you going to decide? You know, you're going to man both of them. And then about a month after that, he says, no, we're not going to do the fairgrounds. We're just going to do the senior center. So they can decide that. We requested have a much more machines, whatever, and they says, well, we're put out all that we have. If you can remember, they had voting places everywhere, and we only had like 5 machines at ours. Wait, what happened when you had all those machines around our whole city?
Yeah,
they didn't answer that. So anyway, I think she's got an idea of what trouble it is and what they need to do.
Are we past the point that there can't be, I mean, the ballot's going to look with 3 council members on it. It's not going to have initiatives on it. And people, right. I mean, we had problems of people coming from different cities because their lines were reported around blocks in other places.
So next year, when it's a presidential election, you will have that, when it's that. But if it's just a city ballot, they've now announced that they're going to put a county issue on the ballot, probably. It's the county form of government. And so whether they're going to have a county mayor with the county council, or more commissioners, I'm not sure what they're going to be voting for. But if they do that, then it's going to be on our ballot with ours, just like our RAP tax was on theirs the last year. So you never know if there's going to be more. 2 years ago, all of a sudden we had Jason Chaffetz seat was then now on ours, and now our little city election became a federal election with Chaffetz's question on it. So you never really know what's going to happen.
So if they get they buy their postage in bulk.
Have a permit. I don't know if it's by
Well,
bulk.
right. No, I'm just saying, using, terminology we're all familiar with. That, you go to Costco and you buy this cheaper, but
they might argue it's not the same.
8 pounds, sure. So they have a permit. I'll use their words. So they have a permit to get cheaper postage, but we're paying 30 to 40 cents more. And I'm inferring that it's to help pay the $1 million in the machines that they're buying.
Correct.
Because it's the information was if the state gives money for that $1 million, then we get a discount. My concern is, okay, so they charge us $180 this year. In 2 years, the next election, is it $180 or is it?
I don't think they've inflated it.
Or
I think that is the
$2?
cost. I think that is the cost of the postage, and it looks like it's more than ours. But I think if we had to mail it for that it wouldn't be a bulk. It's not a bulk rate. Our fee would be maybe $2 or $3 per ballot because it's an election. It has a return address, return envelope.
So that is just cost. That's not a money generation.
According to them, that's what it is. I haven't seen the invoice, but
sorry, I'm just very skeptical of the county, and so they're raising it.
I don't think they pad that to pay the equipment off. I think they're probably padding other areas to pay the equipment.
Well, and that's my question, because if that's just the cost, why is there a discount if the state gives money for the equipment?
Well, the $1.80, it rolls all of it. The postage, the cost, the rent, amortization of the equipment, all that stuff is in the $180.
Okay.
That's not $180 just for the postage.
Okay.
So it does benefit if we only have a general election. So I'm not encouraging people not to file, but just the reality of it is if we do have a primary, it's $32,000 to somewhere around there, probably between $25,000 and $30,000 to have a primary, or to have any election, each election. Okay. So that's something we'll need to put in the budget that you'll be seeing, and that's why we'll probably have to put the 64 in the budget, and then we'll see how it happens. By the end of that week, we'll know whether we have a primary, so we maybe can adjust it by the time of the public hearing, we won't know. By the time of the adoption, we'll know, so we can adjust that in between the public hearing for the budget and the 2 meetings in June. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to throw this as information to you. The new sheriffs in the county office are advocates of ranked choice voting. They really think that it's going to be the new thing. The angle that they propose is you only have to have one election. If you do ranked choice voting, you have no primary election. You go directly to the general election, and the ballot is that everybody ranks everybody on your first choice, your second choice, your third choice, all the way down to all the candidates that are on there. Then as soon as one of the candidates gets over a 50% majority, that candidate is then declared one of the winners, and then anybody that has the bottom one that doesn't have the highest falls off, and all of their second place votes then now get spread to everybody else. Then they say, okay, who's the lowest one now? They take that one off, and then they say, okay, who did that person vote as the second place vote? And then they start rolling it up until there's 3 declared winners or there's 50%. So in a city council one running for the top 3 votes, it gets very complicated on how they roll those people off and share those votes. And I don't want to get into that. It'll make mine and Seth's parents' brain explode.
Could that happen this year?
It could. Could it happen? No, because, well, you have until the 15th of April to say, I want to do it with them. And right now there's only like 3 in the state, 3 cities that said, 3 or 4 cities that said, we want to be guinea pigs to this. One of them is Salem. Salem's now second thinking that. But down the road, I don't know. The part I worried about would be if the county says, okay, we'll do your elections as for vote by mail, but you have to do this. Because we're conducting it, that's the way you're going to do it. Otherwise, you guys got to go figure it out on your own. So it kind of strong arms us to say, but we don't want to do that. She promised, when I asked that question to her, she says, no, we won't force cities to do it. Well, maybe not this year, maybe not next year. I don't know, 5 years, 10 years down the road, if that's going to be what happens.
Which sort of leads me to a question that they were generous to let us put our RAP tax on their ballot. Are we just thinking we'll be generous and allow them to put a county mayor referendum on ours?
Assuming that's
right.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
little
it
payback.
started one before that.
Okay.
They told me that they were going to share the cost.
We're even right now.
Yes. Because of
Chaffetz.
Right.
And then they did ours.
Right.
So in your world, I know how you think. That's where I'm going with this. Wouldn't you rather see something concrete saying, this is the fee, this is how we at least see an exchange of monies in exchange for that?
Yes. And that, the county will want you to sign an interlocal agreement to conduct the elections. And on the other one before, he verbally says, I'll share half of your, I'll share your cost of your election if you let us put our thing on there. When it came down to it, the card he played was, you don't have an agreement with us. So
nothing signed.
We're not gonna
I remember you
play
mentioning
that game.
that.
So, if anything, I think we need to spell it out in some sort of an agreement that you're not going to charge us. Okay, then if we'll conduct it, and then if it's quid pro quo, back and forth, we'll do that from now, perpetual forward. You don't charge us, we don't charge you. We'll help you unless there's extenuating something bigger than that causes something. Then we'll address it in the interlocal agreement each time that comes up. Is what I would suggest.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. So, declaration of candidacy would be the first week in June, and the way things are playing out is we will do vote by mail. I'll have to get some sort of approval from you that I would tell the county, yes, we want you to conduct that. Please give us an interlocal agreement. If you're ready to make that decision tonight, then you're not approving the interlocal agreement, but if you're saying, yes, let's go to the county and let them conduct our vote by mail, they'll prepare the interlocal agreement, then you can decide if you really want to do that or not.
Do you still have the ability to do the elections if we don't do it by mail? The Kent Clark way of 2014?
There is a possibility. It's harder. It's a whole lot easier right now, but because they do it, I only have to do those couple of things that you said. I have to get election judges. You think of 3 or 4, actually 6 for each voting place that there would be, because they have counters and we have the ones that sit there at the desk the whole time. People don't want to do that anymore. It's hard to find election judges. You can find out of our community 6 or 8 that might come down there, but try to find 35. It's a different story to find that many.
And we're getting more voter turnout with the mail,
right.
correct?
And manually counting, it took a while and to do that, and it's a lot of effort. The other side of it is, what are the residents wanting? Because, they've got to vote by mail. Send it to my house. Let me take 4 days and look at this ballot to decide what I want. And granted, ours is pretty small and easy to fill out, but the federal ones, and once they do a federal one, and then they go back to this paper one by me, and then they go to this vote by mail, and then a paper one back to me. Consistency helps voters to know where they're at. And it's kind of like we're already past that point. We've done it twice now in a row. Do you want to go back to the paper one, or what are they going to accept? It costs money to be progressive, I guess, to move into the next century. Okay? So
I would suggest moving forward
to have them create the interlocal agreement saying we'll participate.
Vote by mail, not RCV.
Right. Yeah. Perfect. Okay? All right. I do have a thing on the RAP tax, and this information is possibly for you and for us a little bit, but mostly this is for any businesses in town that might be watching City Council, because I think this is some critical information that they should know. And we're not responsible for telling them. This is kind of like a public service announcement to help them, okay? So last November, the voters approved that we add a sales tax addition, an increase to our sales tax percentage the city gets. Okay, so it was voter approved. It's 0.1%, and the effective date is the 1st of next month. And so the State Tax Commission has sent notices to all the businesses. Now, whether they opened them or whether they opened them and looked at them, and if they look at them and read them, and if they look at them and read them and understood them, and if they look at them and read them and understood them and acted upon them, that's where we're hoping that maybe we'll wake that. So there's not, at the end of April, they have to remit. Even if they didn't collect it, they still have to remit the tax that should have been collected. So they're going to record what their sales were, and then hopefully their register is collecting the right amount of money that's going on the year, and they have that saved there. It's not that it's coming out of the business's pocket, because it's coming out of the purchaser's pocket, not the business's pocket. But if they don't change their registers, then it's going to have to come out of the owner's pocket, because they've got to make it whole to the State Tax Commission. Okay? So they sent out a bulletin called 0119, and I have a copy of that right here. So you at home or any business owners, if you see that, look at that. It tells of the effective date and some of the things that have been announced of what has changed on sales tax. And there are 3 big things that changed, not just ours, but for our residents and our business district, there are 3 sales tax changes. And I didn't know if you for sure knew that or not, but this is the heading of that. It's effective April 1st, and this is what the body of it says right here. And so there's a sales tax change up here for the state of Utah. There's a sales tax for certain cities that did the RAP, ZAP, zoo, whatever you want to call it. There's our name right there. That's the notice that goes to our citizens to say, by the way, Spanish Fork is now changing that, and any business in Spanish Fork, you have now been put on notice that they have changed it. We've never done that, and our businesses may not know to look at that bulletin to say, oh, that's where it's going to tell me where it's at. Then down here, the county changed a sales tax also. So we have the state. They raised it because of Medicare, a voted, approved expansion of Medicaid, and the city did this one, and the county commissioners did this one to raise sales tax for their transportation. Okay? So this is how as of April 1st, our line is going to have the state's number. It used to be 4.07. Now it's 8.5. So it went up 15.
4.70. You said 07.
Oh, sorry, 7.0. 7.0. Then here's our 1% we get. That's called the local option, local sales tax. This is the county. They get 25%. About 15 years ago, they said, we'll lower our property tax rate we get as long as we get to get a sliver of the sales tax. Then have all these transit or transportation ones, which all go to the county, except for this one goes to UTA. So these 3 columns will all go to the county. These 3 go to the county, and this column right here goes to the county. And then this is the RAP, ZAP, whatever, botanical, zoo, municipality thing. So this is where ours, this is the first time our 10 has been in that little box right there. So you can see our new rate here isn't 6.75, it's now 7.25. It went up 0.5% because of the state, because of ours is 10%, and then the county added another 0.25 in theirs. So they up theirs even more than both the state and us. Okay? So there are 3 changes, the state one, a county one, and the city one, all into the sales tax. And so when you add those, you have a 15, a 25, and a 10 for a 50. It raises our percent up here to a 7.25, effective April 1st. Okay? So as a business, they should start collecting that higher sales tax, 0.5% more, on any sale that takes place April 1st and on. They collect that during the month. At the end of the month, they have the month of May in order to file their tax return and remit that to the State Tax Commission. So by the end of May, they should be remitting what they collected in sales tax to the tax commission. Then by the 20th of the next month, the tax commission then remit our portion of the 1% plus the RAP tax will come back to the city not until sometime the end of June. So that's the lag time between collect, report, and then remit back to the city. So it's about a month and a half to 2 months that would come in. Some businesses will report monthly, some report quarterly, and some report annually. Okay? So if you are reporting an annual, you won't even be filling out a return until next January. So if you don't change your register now, you're going to find out that you're going to be hit with more sales tax out of the owner's pocket at the end if you don't catch it right now. If you do it quarterly, it starts April 1st, guess what? You won't see your return until the end of June into July, and you'll do a full quarter. So it's critical that the businesses change their registers for each one of these, because it's a 0.5%. Ours is only 0.1, but the other is 0.5 in total. So it's critical. I don't know how much more I can say. I've said all I can say. The states, I called and talked to them, and they said they send out 92,000 notices to all the businesses that are inside the state of Utah. And so if you're licensed and registered at the State Tax Commission to do sales tax, to collect sales tax as a business, you've got that notice. And so they've sent those out, and I've done my job the best I can to tell them that. So here's the notice. It is effective the 1st of next month. That's all I got.
You did share that with the Chamber of Commerce today, that the email went out, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it did.
Yeah, so there's some value added to Chamber members. Got a reminder email.
Okay. That's all I got.
Thanks, Ken.
Thanks, Kent. I move we go into closed session for reasonably imminent litigation and land transaction.
Second.
Motion and second by Councilmember Gordon and second by Councilmember Scobes to go into closed session. All in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned into closed session. Thanks for coming.